You think you already know what makes a man attractive? That's the problem. Not because you're wrong about everything, but because the parts you're most confident about, those are exactly the parts working against you. Most men have been running on borrowed advice, things they picked up from movies, from older guys who were just as lost, from social media that rewards performance over presence. And somewhere along the way, that advice started to feel true, because everyone around you believed it too. But here's what I've watched, studied, and observed for longer than I want to admit. The men women can't stop thinking about, the ones they mention to their friends, the ones they replay in their heads at 11 p.m. Those men weren't doing the most. They were doing the least, deliberately, quietly, with a kind of ease that most men have been trained out of since childhood. And that's what this video is really about. Not tricks, not tactics, not lines. This is about the silent language your body already speaks, and what happens when you finally learn to control it. Stay through this entire video, because there's something I'm going to show you near the end. A signal she gives when she's locked in, that most men miss every single time. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start here. 1. The triangle gaze, eye contact that burns into her memory. Here's a question most men never ask themselves. When was the last time you held someone's gaze without flinching? Not a stare, not a challenge, just staying. Letting your eyes say, I'm here, I see you, and I'm not afraid of being seen. Most men can't do it. Not because they're weak, but because somewhere early on, they learned that holding eye contact too long was dangerous, too intense, too much. So they learned to look away. And every time they do, every single time she reads it. Not as politeness, as uncertainty. And uncertainty is quiet, but it's loud where it counts. Men who understand presence don't look away first. Not out of aggression, not to dominate, but because they've stopped apologizing for existing in someone's field of vision. Here's the technique. It's called the triangle gaze, and it takes less than 2 seconds. You move your focus slowly, calmly, from her left eye to her right. Then just for a breath, down to her lips, then back up. That's it. But what her brain processes in those 2 seconds is something neither of you will fully understand in the moment. It registers as intimate, as intentional, as the kind of attention most people never receive. Watch what follows. If she tucks her hair back, if her gaze drops briefly then returns, if she reaches for her drink or shifts her weight slightly, those aren't random. That's her nervous system responding to something it wasn't expecting. Now here's the part that matters more than the technique itself. The men who pull this off aren't thinking about the technique when they do it. They're thinking about her. They're genuinely present. And she feels the difference between a man performing eye contact and a man who is simply there. Presence can't be faked, but it can be practiced. And it starts with one decision, to stop looking away. First. 2. The masculine half smile. The expression she can't decode. You've been smiling wrong, not in the way you think. This isn't about your teeth or your face. It's about what your smile is communicating beneath the surface. When a man smiles too wide, too fast, too eagerly, women don't consciously think he's trying too hard, but something in them shifts. The curiosity drops. The intrigue flattens, because a smile that asks for approval gives away too much, too soon. The half smile operates differently. One corner, barely lifting, eyes staying steady, not cold, calm. The expression of a man who finds something genuinely amusing, but doesn't feel the need to announce it. Women are extraordinarily attuned to micro-expressions, the tiny emotional signals that cross a face faster than conscious thought. And what the half-smile broadcasts at that level is something that can't be scripted or manufactured. It says, I'm comfortable. I'm not chasing this moment. And if you're paying attention, you might catch something worth knowing. That ambiguity? That's the hook. Here's the moment to use it. She says something. You respond. And instead of reacting with full expression, you let one corner of your mouth rise. You hold it for just a beat longer than feels natural. Then you let it fade. She's left in the space between your expression and the next thing you say. That space is where curiosity lives. And curiosity in attraction is everything. The next 2 gestures go deeper into territory most men have never been taught to think about. One of them involves something you do without realizing it, and it's either working for you or quietly working against you. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When she's talking, really talking, Where is your attention? Not where you think it is. Where it actually is. Because here's what most men don't realize. She already knows. Before you respond. Before you nod. Before you say yeah, totally, while your eyes drift somewhere else for half a second. She knows. Women have been reading rooms, reading faces, reading energy their entire lives. It's not a skill they developed. It's something they were trained into by necessity. And what they're reading every single moment of a conversation is whether or not you're genuinely there. Most men aren't. And the ones who are, the ones who make her feel like the only person in the room, those are the men she can't stop thinking about. Here's how that presence shows up in the body. 3. The slow head tilt. The gesture that makes her feel seen. It's one of the smallest movements a human body can make. A few degrees, that's all. But when a man tilts his head slowly while she's speaking, not nodding mechanically, not shifting restlessly, something changes in the dynamic of the entire conversation. She feels it before she understands it. Here's the psychology behind it. The head tilt is an ancient signal. Across every culture, across thousands of years of human behavior, it has communicated one thing. I am open to you. I am not guarded. I am listening with more than my ears. And there's a physical layer to this that most people never think about. When you tilt your head, you expose the side of your neck, one of the most vulnerable areas of the human body. Instinctively, that exposure says, I'm not on defense. I'm not performing. I'm here. That signal reaches her before her conscious mind processes it. Picture this. She's telling you something that matters to her. Maybe it's something small, a frustrating day, a strange memory that surfaced. Most men in that moment are either nodding blankly or already forming their response. Already half checked out. But you let your shoulders drop slightly. Your body turns just a fraction more toward her. And then with quiet intention, you tilt your head a few degrees. Your eyes stay on hers. Steady, unhurried. In that moment, you give her something most people spend their entire lives looking for. The feeling of being genuinely heard. And here's what that does psychologically. When someone feels truly heard, not just listened to, but received, their nervous system relaxes, their guard lowers, they start giving more. Not because they decided to, because their body decided for them. She'll lean in slightly without realizing it. Her sentences will get longer, her voice will soften, she'll start sharing things she didn't plan to share. Not because you said the right thing, because you held the right space. Here's the advanced layer. Pair the head tilt with a deliberate slowdown in your breathing. When she's speaking about something that clearly matters, let your chest settle. Let the air move slowly. Keep your gaze steady and soft. That stillness creates gravity. And gravity pulls. Now here's the twist that changes how you see this entirely. The head tilt isn't just a listening gesture. It's a dominance move in disguise. Think about it. The man who can sit completely still, completely present, completely unbothered by the noise around him, while giving her his full, unhurried attention, that man is communicating something profound. I don't need to perform. I don't need to fill silence. I am secure enough to simply be here with you. That kind of stillness is rare, and rare things are always magnetic. 4. The jawline and neck touch, directing her attention without a word. Here's something that's going to sound strange at first. You've already done this move thousands of times. In meetings, conversations. In moments of deep thought. Your hand drifts to your jaw. Your thumb brushes your neck. Your fingers rest along the edge of your face for just a second before you respond. You never thought twice about it. But she noticed. Every single time. Here's why this matters more than most men will ever understand. Women are biologically attuned to specific male features. The jawline, the neck. These aren't arbitrary preferences. They're evolutionary markers. A defined jaw signals testosterone and strength. An exposed neck signals openness and confidence. Together, they form one of the most primal visual triggers in human attraction. And when you casually, deliberately draw her attention there, you activate something in her that has nothing to do with logic. It bypasses thought entirely. Picture this scene. You're sitting across from her. She asks you something personal, something that deserves a real answer. Instead of rushing to respond, you pause. Your hand rises slowly. Your fingers graze the edge of your jaw. Not scratching, not fidgeting, just a calm, deliberate touch. As if the weight of the question deserves a moment of genuine consideration. Then you answer. measured, unhurried, thoughtful. What just happened in those 3 seconds? Her eyes followed your hand. They moved to your jaw, to your neck, and her subconscious filed something away that she won't be able to articulate later. This man is different. I don't know why, but something about him stays with me. Now here's where it gets psychologically interesting. If she starts mirroring you, touching her own neck, playing with her necklace, brushing her collarbone, that's not coincidence. That's her nervous system syncing with yours. Her body aligning with your energy before her mind has made any conscious decision. That's called rapport at the subconscious level. And it's one of the clearest signals that attraction is already forming. The rule here is restraint. 1 or 2 deliberate touches in a conversation. No more. Because the moment it becomes a habit, it loses its power. The subconscious responds to things that feel organic, not rehearsed. Less. Always less. And here's the advanced combination that makes this almost unfair. Pair the jawline touch with the triangle gaze. Lock eyes. Left, right, lips, back up. And as your gaze returns to hers, let your hand graze your jaw in that same unhurried motion. 2 signals. 1 moment. Completely natural. Her subconscious receives both, processes neither consciously, and files the entire exchange under 1 word. Him. There's a moment. And if you think back, you've probably witnessed it without knowing what you were seeing, where a man walks into a space and something shifts. Not because he announced himself. Not because he said anything clever or wore something expensive. Just because of the way he moved. The room didn't change. The people didn't change. The music, the lighting, the noise, all the same. But something in the air did. That's not luck. That's not genetics. That's not some quality a man is born with and either has or doesn't. That's a decision. Made before he crossed the threshold. Expressed through every muscle, every step, every inch of how his body chose to occupy space. And here's what's uncomfortable about that. Most men have never made that decision consciously. They walk into rooms the same way they've always walked into rooms, hoping not to be noticed for the wrong reasons, hoping things go well, carrying just enough uncertainty in their posture to broadcast it to everyone watching. They don't realize they're being read before they've said a word. She already knows something about you the moment you walk through a door. The question is, what does she know? The confident walk. Presence before the first word. Let's be precise about this. Because most advice on walking confidently sounds like it was written for a self-help poster in a high school hallway. This isn't about swagger. It isn't about performing masculinity, or puffing your chest, or trying to look like someone you saw in a movie. Those things register immediately as performance. And performance is the opposite of presence. What actually works is simpler and harder at the same time. Composure. The man who walks into a room with composure isn't thinking about how he looks. He's not scanning faces for approval. He's not rushing to reach his destination so the exposed walk across the room ends faster. He moves like he has already decided the outcome of the evening, not arrogantly, not aggressively, just settled, in himself, in the space, in the moment. Shoulders back, not pulled unnaturally, just open. Chest slightly expanded. Chin level, not tilted down toward the floor, which signals retreat, and not jutted up artificially, which signals performance. Just level, aware, present, pace. And this is the one most men get wrong. Unhurried, the nervous man rushes. He wants to get from point A to point B before anyone has time to really look at him. His stride is slightly too fast. His eyes are slightly too busy. His whole body says, I'm passing through, don't look too long. The man with presence takes his time. Not slowly, not theatrically, just at his own pace, like he owns his minutes. Arms relaxed at his sides, not crossed, that's closed. Not shoved into pockets, that's hiding, just loose, natural, like a man who has nothing to defend and nothing to prove. Here's the scene. Same bar, same night. 2 men walk in. The first moves quickly toward the bar, shoulders slightly forward, phone already coming out of his pocket before he's found his spot. He's there but not really there, already managing the discomfort of being in a new space. The second walks in, pauses, just briefly at the entrance. Not dramatically, just long enough to let his eyes adjust, let his body settle, let the space become his before he moves through it. Then he walks. Steady, open, unhurried. One of the women near the entrance glances up, then glances again. She doesn't know why. She couldn't explain it if you asked her. But something about that second man registered differently. That's not attraction yet. That's something that comes before attraction. That's interest. And interest is the door. Everything else is what happens after you walk through it. Here's the pro tip that ties directly into the next gesture. Before you enter any new space, a restaurant, a bar, a social event, pause at the threshold for just one breath, not long enough for anyone to notice, just long enough for you to notice. Adjust, settle, decide, then walk in like the decision has already been made. 6. Adjusting your clothing slowly. The ritual that signals self-possession. You've done this without thinking about it your entire adult life. Rolled up a sleeve, fixed a collar, adjusted a watch, smoothed a shirt. To you, nothing. Habit. Reflex. To her, something else entirely. Here's what nobody explains about this. Women don't just notice what you're wearing. They notice how you wear it. And more specifically, how you relate to it. Whether your clothing is something you're comfortable in, or something you're enduring. The man who tugs nervously at his collar tells her something. The man who fidgets with his cuffs, pulling and repulling because he can't settle, he tells her something too. He's uncomfortable in his own presentation. And if he's uncomfortable with himself, how is she supposed to feel comfortable with him? Contrast that with the man who moves through these same small adjustments with total ease. He starts rolling up his sleeve mid-conversation. Not to show off. Not because he planned it. Just because the moment called for it, and he does it slowly, deliberately, one fold at a time, like it's the most natural thing in the world, and it becomes impossible not to watch. Here's the biology underneath that observation. The slow reveal of a forearm. The lines of muscle, the veins visible under the skin, registers in female psychology as a primal indicator of physical capability and strength. Not in a conscious way. In the same way certain sounds make you feel calm, before your brain identifies why. It bypasses the thinking mind. And it happens because you simply rolled up your sleeve. Slowly, with intention. Another moment. You're adjusting your watch before stepping into a room. One hand moves to the face of it, not rushing, not fumbling, just settling it into place with the same quiet precision you bring to everything else. That single gesture tells a story. I pay attention to details. I take care of what's mine. I move through the world with intention. Women read that story in under 3 seconds. Here's the advanced layer. After adjusting, whatever it is, sleeve, collar, watch, glance up, slowly. Catch her eye if she's nearby. Hold it for just a breath. Then return to whatever you were doing. You didn't make a performance of it. You didn't draw attention to yourself with words or action. But you gave her a frame, a window into the way you carry yourself, that she'll keep thinking about long after the moment has passed. This is the part most men miss entirely. Attraction isn't always built in the moments you're trying. Sometimes it's built in the moments when you're simply being, when you're moving through a room with quiet self-possession, and she happens to be watching. The men who understand this stop trying to create impressive moments. They simply stop being unimpressive in the small ones. 7. Leaning back, the posture that pulls her forward. Here's a counterintuitive truth that took me a long time to articulate clearly. The more you chase, the further it moves. Not just in attraction. In psychology broadly. The harder you reach for something, the more visibly you need it. The more it seems to retreat. This is why eagerness is so quietly destructive. And most men don't even know they're doing it. They lean forward at the table. They talk faster when she seems interested. They match her energy with an intensity that tips from engaged into desperate, without any single obvious moment where the shift happened. She felt it. Even if she can't name it. And something in her, something she didn't decide consciously, started to pull back. Now consider the opposite. You're at a table. The conversation is moving. She's engaged. And instead of leaning into that energy, instead of pressing forward the way every instinct tells you to, you lean back. Slightly. One arm draped over the back of the chair beside you, shoulders open, posture easy. Your body broadcasting one quiet, devastating message. I'm enjoying this. And I don't need it to go anywhere. Watch what happens. She leans forward, not consciously, not as a strategy. Her body moves toward yours because the space you created by leaning back became something she wanted to fill. That's the psychology of gravity. You become the center of pull, not by reaching outward, but by becoming still. Pair this with one more layer. Stillness. No tapping fingers. No bouncing knee. No restless shifting. Just quiet. Controlled. A man who is so comfortable in the moment that his body has nothing to say except "I belong here." That stillness is one of the rarest things in a room full of nervous energy, and she will feel it like a temperature change. We've covered a lot of ground, but I want to slow down here, because what comes next isn't just technique. It's the part that separates the men who understand attraction on a surface level from the men who understand it at the level where it actually lives. And it starts with a question most men never think to ask. What does she actually need to feel? Not think, not decide, but feel before she opens herself to someone. Safe. Not safe as in protected from danger. Safe as in, this man's presence doesn't cost me anything. Being near him doesn't require my guard to be up. I can exhale. Everything that follows is built on that foundation. And once you understand it, the last two gestures make complete sense. 8. Offering your hand. Leadership that doesn't announce itself. This one gets dismissed the moment most men hear it. They picture something stiff, performative, an exaggerated gesture from a different era. But that's not what this is. This is something far quieter and far more powerful. Picture this. You're moving through a crowded space together. Bodies everywhere. Noise. The kind of environment where it's easy to get separated, easy to feel unanchored, without making a production of it, without saying "Here, let me." Your hand appears at the small of her back. Light, calm, guiding her through the crowd with a touch so natural it feels like muscle memory. The touch lasts maybe 4 seconds, but what it communicates in those 4 seconds has been wired into human psychology for longer than language has existed. I see you. You're with me. I've got this. She doesn't process this consciously. Her nervous system does. And her nervous system responds with one thing: relaxation. That relaxation is the foundation of trust. And trust is the foundation of everything that comes after. Here's what makes this gesture work, and what kills it when men get it wrong. It has to feel inevitable, not planned, not announced, not performed. The men who say "Here, let me help you" before offering their hand, they've already broken the spell. They've turned a primal moment into a transaction, into something that requires her response, her acknowledgement, her participation in the performance. But the man whose hand simply appears, who guides without ceremony, who leads without making leadership the subject of conversation, that man creates something she didn't know she was missing until it was already happening. Watch how she responds. If she leans slightly into the guidance, if her body angles toward yours instead of away, if she doesn't create distance between herself and your hand, that's not just comfort. That's alignment. Her subconscious has already decided something. Her body is just telling you what it is. And here's the layer that most people miss entirely. This gesture isn't about physical touch. It's about the quality of attention behind the touch. A man who guides her through a crowd because he's genuinely aware of her, because he noticed before she had to ask, is communicating a kind of attentiveness that most people go their entire lives without experiencing. And when someone finally gives you that, when someone finally notices you in that quiet, specific, unhurried way, you don't forget it. You look for it again. 9. Mirroring. The silent confirmation you've already won the room. Here's the one that works differently from all the others. Every gesture we've talked about so far, you initiate, you hold the gaze, you adjust the sleeve, you lean back, you guide. This one, you watch for. It's called mirroring. And it's the clearest signal the subconscious mind gives when it has already decided to trust someone, already decided to move toward them, before the conscious mind has caught up. Here's how it works. You touch her jaw. A few seconds later, she touches her neck. You lean back in your chair. Within moments, her posture shifts to match yours. You slow your breathing, your words coming out more measured and calm, and gradually, without her noticing, her pace slows too. This isn't something she's choosing to do. That's the important part. This is her nervous system syncing with yours because something in her has decided, wordlessly, without deliberation, that she wants to be in your frequency. Psychologists call it rapport, but in the context of attraction, it's something more specific than that. It's her body giving you information her words haven't said yet. Now here's how to use it, not manipulatively, but intelligently. Once you notice her mirroring, Once you've confirmed that her body is tracking yours, shift. Lean back further. Slow your breathing. Lower your voice a half degree. Change the angle of your posture. And watch. If she follows, if her body adjusts to match the new position, she's locked in. Her subconscious is fully oriented toward you. The connection isn't forming anymore. It's already formed. That's the moment most men don't recognize. Because they're still trying, still performing, still working to create something that has already been created. The man who understands this, who can feel that shift happen and respond to it with stillness instead of more effort, that man becomes something rare. He becomes the calm at the center of her attention. And she doesn't know how to look away. The bonus signal. When her voice tells you everything. There's one final thing I want you to carry out of this video. It doesn't require anything from you. No gesture. No adjustment. No technique. It just requires you to pay attention. When a woman is genuinely drawn to someone, when the attraction has moved past surface-level curiosity into something that has taken root in her voice changes. Not dramatically. You won't catch it if you're not looking for it. But it's there. Her volume drops slightly. Her pace slows. The energy in her voice, which might be loud and open with everyone else in the room, becomes something quieter, something closer, something that exists almost exclusively in the space between the two of you. It's her subconscious building a private world, right there in public, without permission and without plan. She might be laughing with the whole room one moment, and then she turns to you, and the register shifts. Softer, more deliberate, like she's suddenly speaking to someone who deserves a different kind of words. That shift is not small. That shift is everything, because it means she has already separated you, in her mind, in her body, in the way her nervous system responds to your presence, from everyone else in the room. When you feel that happen, and you will, once you know what to feel for, don't rush it. Don't fill it with words or jokes or effort. Just slow down. Lower your own voice to match hers. Let the space between you get quieter. Let the bubble form. Because inside that bubble, in that private frequency she just invited you into without knowing she did it, that's where real connection lives. Not the connection you performed your way into. The kind that arrived on its own because your presence made room for it. Here's what I want to leave you with. And I'm going to say it simply because it doesn't need to be complicated. Everything in this video, every gesture, every signal, every layer of psychology, points to one thing. The men who move women aren't the ones who try the hardest. They're the ones who need it the least. Not because they don't care, but because they've stopped using other people's reactions to decide how they feel about themselves. They walk into rooms already settled. They hold eye contact because they're not afraid of what it reveals. They lean back because they don't need to close every gap. They guide without grabbing. They listen without performing. They let silence work because they're not threatened by it. That's not a technique, that's an identity. And once it becomes yours, once you stop reading this as information, and start moving through the world as the man who already knows it, everything changes. Not just how she looks at you, how you look at yourself when no one's watching. That's the shift that lasts. This is Dark Psychology 2.0. I'm Zara. And the version of you that understands this doesn't need to announce himself. He just walks in,